Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for using insulting wallpapers for my phone's home screen after my coworkers kept touching it? Okay, this might sound ridiculous, but allow me to take the time to explain. So I am 28, started working at this company for 6 months. My guy coworkers are decent. However, I noticed a pattern with my female coworkers, a couple of them, which consists of them appending looking through my phone whenever they get the chance, me using the bathroom meeting etc. So far I've caught them doing it 3 times. They didn't take something or open any apps because I would known, but still didn't know why they kept snooping. I wanted to tackle this issue in a non-confrontational way since they're both beyond sweet except for this snooping thing. So what I did was set up insulting or offensive wallpapers. Some of them I made myself. Wallpapers that say, "Don't touch my phone #Emagal widow," or "I can see you," with John Cena waving his hand, or _don't touch my phone, with a middle finger in the middle of the screen. It was just an experiment, but apparently it got to them. They claimed that I had offended them on a personal level, called them names and so on. I told them they had no business touching my phone, but they made excuses saying they were just trying to borrow my charger, check the time etc etc. The office got split. Some said I should come to the ladies if I really had an issue. Some say I was justified, and ultimately no one gets to control what I use as my wallpapers. They're now expecting a formal apology, but I refused. Am I the antagonist? Did I handle this inappropriately? Now for the top comments. This whole situation is bizarre. Your company must have policies regarding this behavior. It's not work related. First of all, they are goofing off. Secondly, this is harassment. Like looking through your wallet. They don't sound sweet at all. Right. You don't forfeit your right to privacy going into the office. A coworker can't decide to come use my corporate card if I leave my wallet on the desk when I go to a meeting or the bathroom. If you do truly work somewhere sensitive enough to worry about it, you'd likely have to check your phone at the door or have a true zero device policy. That would be no secret to anyone. NTA, keep your hands off and nose out of things that aren't yours. They would never have even seen the offensive wallpaper at all if they hadn't been snooping. The punishment perfectly fits the crime. They chose to do something nosy and invasive, and were rightfully called out as a result. Am I the antagonist for refusing to let my sister's kids play in my house? Edit. Added some details that I forgot. I'm a 36-year-old woman, and have recently bought a beautiful house. It has everything I need in a home, including an indoor pool. The only downside is that I now live closer to my sister and her family than I did before. Now I don't exactly hate them, but they're a lot. My sister, 32, and her husband have 5 children. The kids are rambunctious, to put it delicately. They scream, shout, run around and break things. And frankly, I don't want them in my home. Unfortunately, a certain crisis arose in our family, for which the entire family had to gather under the same roof to talk things through. My parents kept insisting that I invite everyone, my parents, sister and her husband, my brother and his wife, plus a few aunts, uncles and cousins, to my place. Reluctantly, I agreed. They all came pouring in, and my heart sank when I saw that my siblings had brought their kids. Even though I didn't mention them in my invite, my brother's 2 kids are somewhat bearable, but my sister's brats are little monsters. So we had a little discussion and came to a resolution. The whole time I had to make sure those brats didn't destroy anything. Thankfully, I was able to send my dogs and cats to my friend's place for a few hours, where they'd be safe, as everyone was leaving. My sister smiled sweetly and said, "Your house is so big. The kids would love to play here after school." My response was, "Nope, not gonna happen." She asked why not, and said that they could come to my place after school and play for a few hours in my yard and maybe swim in my pool. I explained to her as best as I could that I do not want kids in my home and definitely do not want them in my pool, and she needs to drop it. C's began to fake cry. Typical of her. My parents of course told me to stop being mean to their baby and let her kids come over after school. I said a firm no and told them to leave. Now my mom has been texting me, telling me I'm selfish. What do you think? Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. This isn't the first time I'm seeing a post like this, and it's starting to make me wonder if my parents were just overly strict with me growing up. As a young child, my parents drilled it into my brain to be especially respectful in somebody else's home. Don't run. Don't touch things without asking. Don't raise your voice. Treat the pets with respect. Ask if you want a snack or a drink, rather than just taking something off the counter / out of the fridge. What is it with all these stories of kids being destructive in somebody else's house? Yeah, not the a-hole. Your house, your rules. You have every right to tell your family that you don't feel comfortable with children in your home. And this is especially because you have a pool. That's an accident waiting to happen. Especially if your sister tries to dump all 5 of them on you at once. Let your sister and mom stay mad. No, your parents weren't overly strict. They were appropriately strict. My parents were similar. Some people just don't discipline their kids at all. She asked why not, and said that they could come to my place after school and play for a few hours in my yard and maybe swim in my pool. Sure. And you can do this every day with those 5 kids, because your poor sister needs a break, and why won't you babysit? And no, we are not going to replace anything they broke. We are family. /SNTA. Your mom can whinge into her own shirt. Sounds like Op isn't the only one who doesn't want kids at their house. NTA. Maybe they should train their kids better lol. My rules would be the same for a dog or a kid. If they aren't well behaved, they aren't coming over regularly lol. Of course they want free babysitting and entertainment, but not the a-hole. For whatever reason you want, it is your house, and they sound like a liability. Depending on if you have an inheritance to worry about, try having them over on a holiday once a year, but that's all I'd say is necessary. Can't wait to get my payday and not have to suck up to the parents anymore lol. Am I the antagonist for causing my husband to get fired? My husband, 33, has a habit of making up excuses to get out of work, simply for just not feeling like working on certain days. This has affected us financially because his boss kept lowering his salary as a result. I had to get a 2ND job. He's now bought a PS5 from his 14-year cousin and started playing with it day and night, meanwhile missing work and lying to his boss about why he does it. This time it's because of bad diarrhea and he couldn't get off the toilet. That time is because of fever etc etc. Honestly, I got fed up with him ruining his job and causing us money. I told him he needed to knock this off, but he told me to stay out of it and focus on my jobs. Days ago, he was as eep after staying up all night playing video games. He's decided to skip work, even though his boss gave him a last warning. His boss called at 8 a.m. and I picked up the phone. He asked where my husband was and whether he was coming to work. I straight up said no, because he was up all night playing video games and decided he wasn't going next day. His boss ended the call with me, then I went to work. 2 hours later, I got a call from my husband panicking saying he found a text from his boss saying he was fired and asked whether I told him to get him to do that. I said I told him the truth. But he blew up at me saying he was cooking up an excuses to get his now former boss off his back and give him the day off. But I fucked all up. I told him he can't blame me after the pattern he set and the lack of commitment he's shown to his former boss. He yelled saying I did this to get back at him and to mess with his livelihood. He hung up, but the nasty texts kept coming. I went home and he's gone completely silent, while occasionally venting about how I ruined his job for him when I cold lied and told his former boss whatever excuses instead. Now for the top comments. NTA. You didn't cause him to get fired. His lack of commitment and responsibility did. He has no accountability by blaming you for this inevitable outcome. Honestly, I think you need to divorce him pronto. Yeah, this would be divorce territory for me also. There are a lot of reasons I'd get a second job to support my husband, but supplementing the income he's losing due to playing video games too much is not one of them lol. Even if this dude stopped playing them at all right now, it would take a lot of work on his part to repair the damage to the relationship for me. The fact that he allowed himself to get to this point and had so little respect for me that he was fine with me needing to work a whole second job to make up for his selfish childishness isn't something I'd be able to just move past the minute he puts the controller down. I told him he needed to knock this off, but he told me to stay out of it and focus on my jobs. Excuse me? #1 He's decided to skip work, even though his boss gave him a last warning. Excuse me? #2 He's gone completely silent, while occasionally venting about how I ruined his job for him. Excuse me, WTF? #3 He told me to stay out of it and focus on my jobs. He told me to stay out of it and focus on my jobs. He told me to stay out of it and focus on my jobs. NTA, you are underreacting the situation. NTA, why are you still in a relationship with him if he doesn't see this as a partnership and turns nasty when his behavior has consequences? He doesn't sound mature enough to be in any relationship, let alone 33 and married with all the financial and emotional responsibilities that comes along with that. Stop supporting him, and I'd be carefully thinking if this is what you want your life to be like for the next 40/50/60 years. Am I the antagonist for getting upset that my bridesmaid friend skipped my wedding? I've had a long engagement with my fiancé, got engaged December 2019. We were supposed to get married in 2021, but you can understand why that couldn't happen. So our wedding happened this past weekend. One of my best friends was supposed to attend as a bridesmaid, but she skipped last minute because of an emergency. To be honest, I was mad she skipped because the emergency happened almost a week ago, so she had time to figure things out and attend. So what happened was that her fiancé got a car accident and was hospitalized. He was hospitalized for 5 days, and on Friday he got discharged to go home. My friend had told me from the moment he got into the accident that she'll skip the wedding just to be sure, and I told her we'll see. So when I saw that he got discharged on Friday, I expected my friend to show up at the wedding after all, since his situation is not as dangerous right now, and I texted her, but she said that she'll not be able to make it. She kept saying how he's still not well, and being discharged doesn't mean he can stay alone without care for many hours, and since my wedding day would start at 9 AM on Saturday with the preparations etc, the ceremony would be at 7 PM on Saturday evening and the reception party would last until Sunday morning hours. She couldn't be away from home for that long, and she said she could compromise if she could only attend the ceremony. I said I don't want her there just for the ceremony, and she's a bridesmaid and supposed to be by my side the entire time. I also said that she should find him some care for the day so she can freely attend the wedding, and I suggested inviting either her parents or a friend to stay with him for that day. His parents live far away. She said it's not the same and she won't feel right being away for the entire day. I got pretty upset because she seemed to totally disregard my wedding after so long making preparations, and while I understand it's her fiancé, I was mad she didn't find a compromise to attend. She claims her compromise would be to just attend the ceremony and then go home again, but she's a bridesmaid. If she's not there for the full experience, it would be pointless. She said I'm enough for making her feel guilty about caring for her hurt fiancé, and she said that his situation takes priority over my wedding. She said she's not sorry for prioritizing her so's health over me at this point, and if I was a good friend I'd understand instead of guilt tripping her, and that I better not complain if I'm ever in a difficult situation and I need my husband's help and support, and he chooses to attend someone's wedding over caring for his wife. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Bitter and very selfish. Her fiancé was in an accident and injured enough to be hospitalized. You don't even seem to care about how terrifying all that was for your supposed friend. She would have been distracted and anxious your whole wedding worrying about him probably. If it was your husband who just got out of the hospital, would you feel the same way? Injured enough to be hospitalized for several days. AITA. 1. She did find a compromise. It just wasn't good enough for you two. She didn't skip last minute, she gave you at least 5 days notice. 3. His situation, which is his health and recovery, actually does take priority over a wedding reception. I specifically say reception because she agreed to attend the ceremony, which is realistically the part where you actually get married. Op does not want compromise. She wants compliance. AITA. And a terrible friend. I think you have lost this friend forever. And rightly so. Just because her fiancé had been discharged, it doesn't mean he's fully healed and fit as a fiddle. It just means he doesn't need hospital care and observation round the clock. The fact they kept him in for 5 days means his injuries were pretty severe. It must have been a massive shock to your friend too. Thinking there was a possibility she may lose her fiancé. Her mental state will have had quite the shock, as will that of other family and friends. And here you are, making it all about you. Poor little you. So hard done by as you are now a bridesmaid short. Give your head a wobble. Have a word with yourself. Am I the antagonist for throwing out my friend knowing she doesn't have a job? I, 23F, have a friend, 27F. Her and I have been friends since childhood despite our age gap, and I consider her an older sister. Recently, she broke her leg. It wasn't too bad of an injury, but because of the job she has, she had to be on an unpaid leave for 1-2 months. I invited her to live with me for the meantime. My husband was fine with it, as long as she stuck to her corner of the house, her room. It has a bathroom. She really only needs to come out to eat. She moved in with me 1 month ago. It was all great until my 36 male dad came over. My dad is young as you can tell. He had me when he was 13, before he found out that he was gay. Has really well built, about 6'3", 4", and has a lot of tattoos. In a way he gives people the mafia boss vibe and find him attractive. I noticed her attraction to my dad immediately. She had never met him, as the only parent of mine she knew is my mother, 37F. When she first saw him, she asked me if she could have his number, and almost passed out when I told her he was my father. I started noticing that every time he came over, she would be all over him. It got to the point my dad was complaining about being uncomfortable, and I told her to stop. She didn't listen, and somehow got a hold of his number and sent his unsolicited nudes. My dad no longer feels comfortable coming over, and I decided that I wanted her out of my house because of that. I told her this morning and she flipped out on me and started screaming and yelling. Apparently she said that I shouldn't even be that upset because she was just trying to help my single dad find true love to lead him the right way. I gave her a 1-week notice to move out. Now I received a call from her mother about 20 minutes ago. She was bawling, begging me to not let her poor daughter out on the street when she has no job right now. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA, if her mom is so concerned, her mom can take her in. She crossed a major boundary. Mom doesn't want to take her in. That's why she's trying to guilt trip Pop into keeping her. WTF, not the a-hole. Her mother should take in her daughter. I bet the mom's response is I can't, combine with some fake pity story. NTA. She has been in a full steam sprint to violate a very reasonable boundary you set, and it's very reasonable to ask her to leave your home. She's also clearly homophobic, and I would hope that doesn't align with your values, considering you seem to have a good relationship with your dad. Tell her mom that she'll be out of your house on X date if she wants to get a room ready at her house for her daughter. Am I the antagonist for telling my friend he can't move into my house until he grows up? So I, M23, fairly recently became a first-time homeowner. I've spent the last few months fixing the place up and turning it into a nice little spot. I have a friend who I'll refer to as Bobby, M24, that I told could be a roommate after I get the house fully together and finished. Bobby has come to visit a few times during the restoration process so he can check out the area. He's from out of state. He loves the area and neighborhood and decided he wanted to live here. This is when I initially extended the offer. I figured it'd be fun and would make life a little easier having a second set of hands to help keep up with maintenance, pool, lawn etc. Bobby initially told me that has been working and saving to move out of his parents' places, has been living with them the last few years, and that he'd be more than willing to help out with yard work and such. Yesterday we have a phone call and he asks me when he can move in. I tell him that whenever he's ready he can move in. We then got into a deeper discussion about expectations and boundaries and stuff, just so we were on the same page. That's when I find out that he currently has no money saved, just enough to get moved here, gas, and a U-Haul, not even first month's rent. He tells me his plan was to just get moved in and find a job. I asked him how he has no savings as he works full time and his parents are currently paying his bills and he's not paying rent. He tells me that has been going out a lot because he hates being at his house. I then told him that he'd feel more comfortable if he had at least a month's rent bills saved before he moved in, because in my old apartment I had a friend move in under similar circumstances and he ended up just freeloading for 3 months. Bobby then gets a defensive tone and says, so you didn't want a friend moving in, you just wanted someone to help pay your mortgage. I then told him I love you and you're always welcome in my home, but you can't live here until you do some growing up. I haven't spoken with him since, but a mutual friend of ours reached out and said I was being too harsh on him and should cut him a break. I don't think him tar here because all him doing is trying to avoid living with someone that has no real plan or money that he'll just end up taking care of. Now for the top comments. NTA, I've encountered this breed before. Bobby says you don't want a friend moving in. You just wanted someone to help pay your mortgage. Bobby means, I don't want to move in with a friend. I just want to mooch off someone other than my parents. Your mutual friend is perfectly capable of cutting Bobby a break on their own. Bobby is definitely the kind of person who thinks he should be able to live in the house for free because Op owns it anyway, and why should he help pay off someone else's mortgage? As if that's not how all landlords work, and Op is sacrificing privacy, space, and adding wear and tear and utility usage to the house by letting Bobby live there. NTA, the way he lashed out when you told him he needed to be able to pay rent and his share of the bills before he moved in, combined with the fact that he saved up what he knew he needed to travel but chose not to save any money for living expenses, shows that freeloading is exactly what he intended on. Yep, 100%. Op was going to become his new daddy.